Free speech is under attack in the United States of America, especially on college campuses. University administrations, professors, and students alike have taken up the fight to destroy our right to free speech, and it's gaining traction every day. Good luck trying to speak your mind at Vanderbilt, UVA, the University of Pittsburgh, Michigan State University, and the University of Michigan, where everything anyone says has been labeled as offensive or hate speech. In this episode of On the Frontlines, we're diving into the politically correct culture on these campuses, and we'll sit down with a student from the University of Kansas who was removed from her sorority simply for speaking her mind. Finally, we'll get to know an assistant professor at Clemson University who believes, in his words, all Republicans are racist scum. All this and more. I'm Isabel Brown, and this is On the Frontlines.
On campus, the left tries to silence us.
There's a lot of liberal indoctrination.
Universities don't stand for objective truth.
Insulting us, threatening us.
We are on the front lines. On college campuses today, the First Amendment, aka freedom of expression and speaking your mind, are no longer considered values to be protected, let alone discussed openly in a classroom. Instead, they're evil parts of American culture that must be eliminated in order to live in a more progressive, equitable, and peaceful society, and are highlighted ad nauseum. Make sure you're sitting down for this because these stories will shock you. At Vanderbilt, UVA, the University of Pittsburgh, Michigan State University, and the University of Michigan, it's become damn near impossible for students to speak their minds or share their points of view. Why? Because almost every word in the dictionary has now been labeled offensive or off limits. Turns out pretty much every word is considered to be racist, transphobic, or just all-out hateful. Yowza. Wonder if these kids' parents knew they'd be attending adult daycare for the low cost of tens of thousands of dollars when they decided to send their kids to college? I doubt it. It's time for your State of Campus. Gender. It's a topic that honestly shouldn't be controversial, but here we are in 2021 where we literally can't even determine the gender of a toy potato with a mustache at the risk of offending somebody. So progressive, right? Recently in Nashville, Vanderbilt University published a gender affirmation toolkit for its employees to provide a safe work environment. They say this toolkit is for employees who are transitioning or identify as transgender, genderqueer, or non-binary, as well as the managers who support them. The university uses this toolkit to explain how several commonplace terms are outdated and politically incorrect and should never be used when speaking to or about someone who may be transgender or non-binary. According to Vanderbilt, the words transgenders, transsexual, and sexual reassignment surgery are demeaning and therefore forbidden on campus. Employees are encouraged to always call people by their first name instead of assuming what their pronouns might be. The administrators at Vanderbilt are apparently wearing many hats these days, including free speech police and scientific gender experts. It must be that elite education. Sign this girl up. Wait, I mean, sign this person up. Wow. Okay, so professors are receiving literal toolkits instructing them to no longer refer to pronouns. Now, transgenders, plural, and the term sexual reassignment surgery are demeaning? What's next? The rules on campus change so frequently here in the land of infinite genders, I honestly can't keep up. One day, a word is completely fine, progressive even, to use, and the next, you are promoting hate crimes if you dare to utter such a heinous thing. Give me a break. Oh, and by the way, it's safe to assume I am, in fact, a woman. Nearby, the University of Virginia has also been keen on banning certain words and phrases from their campus, seeing as they could theoretically be offensive to someone. Not that it is already offensive, mind you, but it could be. Okay, this idea offends me. What exactly is UVA up to? Banning the term student athlete because of its apparent, arguably racial undertone. Yeah, you heard that right. A PhD candidate and graduate teaching assistant for the university recently authored an op-ed demanding UVA and all colleges put an end to the use of the term student athlete. She says, as we recognize and come to terms with our country's oppressive and radicalized history, and that history's nexus with higher education, it is important to continue to understand the role of athletics in this relationship. What? Her op-ed continues. Today, the majority of revenue-producing athletes in the sports of football and men's basketball are black. They're coached mostly by white men. The man who coined the term student athlete was also a white man. Using the term student athlete perpetuates the ideals of amateurism while further preventing a play-for-pay model. Okay, so let me try to understand this TA's thought process here. Probably unsuccessfully, since there's clearly not a ton of logic. Since in her mind, the majority of athletes in football and men's basketball are black, yet their coaches are a majority white, the whole Department of Athletics is racist. So now it's a bad thing that there are an apparent majority of successful athletes on campus who happen to be minorities? I thought representation was a step in the right direction for our country. I can all but guarantee that this TA is not athletic and probably has never talked to a student athlete, making this top grade research. I honestly don't understand what this teaching assistant sees as an issue. Is she saying she doesn't want minority student athletes to succeed? Does she want athletes to be considered minority students who happen to excel in physical endeavors? Maybe. Turns out success and representation are racist too. Strap in, folks. We're due for another trip around the progressive merry-go-round. Oh, and speaking of everything being racist, here's a heads up. Apparently, all Trump supporters, nay, all Republicans, are racist scum. At least according to Bart Ningenberg, an assistant professor at Clemson University, who's our featured lunatic on the Professor Watch List this week. Bart recently became a frequent talking point in the media after taking to his social media accounts to completely trash conservatives and spread some of the most extreme lies I've ever seen coming from the left. Let's take a look at some of his Facebook posts. I admire anyone who stands up against white supremacy, violent or non-violent. #punch Nazis. This society is aggressively structured to make cis white males succeed at the expense of minorities. He also took to Twitter to disparage members of the former Trump administration, particularly South Carolina's own former governor and Clemson alum Nikki Haley. According to Bart, it's a good thing we don't live in China, because if we did, he would tell this evil witch she should be pushed into the oven. He literally wanted to put Nikki Haley into an oven and bake her to death because of her political views. Does this guy want to punch Nazis or pretend to be one? Yes, this is a real individual teaching actual courses at Clemson University. I guess his job security isn't impacted by this garbage and intellectually lazy online rhetoric. Yet conservative students have to constantly be looking over their shoulder with everything they post online, so they don't get an F on their paper, get kicked out of student government, or be threatened by their peers. Cool, glad we established that up front. If you're in college right now, I'd say it's probably a good time to start checking your professor's social media posts before enrolling in their class. You've been warned. Bart Ningenberg, what a name, by the way. You're on our list, and all you educators out there, keep it up, and you just might make our Professor Watch List. Well, sure wouldn't want to take his class. Let's travel back east and jump into State of the Campus, where the University of Pittsburgh is also hyper involved with the non-binary PC police on college campuses. They've recently decided to ban any gendered language from their homecoming festivities, which, you guessed it, means homecoming king or queen will now just be homecoming non-binary people. I'm not joking. The university claims the terms homecoming king and queen are antiquated and offensive. So UPitt will be replacing the award for homecoming royalty with the Spirit of Pitt Award to be gender neutral in an effort to ensure all genders, not just male and female, can feel welcome in participating in the homecoming royalty tradition. Sidebar, the Spirit of Pitt Award just completely radiates the image of a deodorant commercial to me, which is so ironic because this decision literally stinks. I applaud you idiots. Here's my question for you, Pitt. Are we going to ban any language on campus that is offensive at all to someone? What happens when students are offended that they aren't considered royalty? I wasn't born a princess and never won the title of homecoming queen, so why even keep the royalty aspect? I'm offended by it all. It seems to me that by keeping the homecoming royalty title, they're promoting wealth inequity and class warfare. Better fix that too before anyone else gets offended. And while we're on the topic of gender and how offensive the binary has become today, why have any gendered aspects of the college experience at all? Why not ban male and female dorm rooms and bathrooms and just force everyone to live outside of the binary and coexist together in harmony? Oh, wait, that would be a recipe for disaster. Yet again, progressive ideas are literally regressing our society. Meanwhile, traveling to the Midwest, we've got 2 stops in the Mitten State, which honestly, are we surprised at all by this? First, Michigan State University is making headlines again after deciding to completely eliminate the words foreign and alien from campus in an attempt to be more inclusive, because now those words themselves are racist. Instead, they'll be replacing them with non-domestic and international. You have got to be kidding me. The school's provost says the change in language on campus will help create a culture of not us versus them, but of each other. She also shared that Michigan State has informed the federal government about the change in language, I suppose because they would like similar changes to happen across the country and for every university to implement similar restrictions on language. Here's my big question. Are the words foreign and alien going to be banned in all their uses, not just for immigration conversations? Are foreign languages now non-domestic languages? When we hear about UFOs, are we supposed to say they're driven by international creatures? I hope I'm never abducted by an international non-domestic thing and taken to space, although that might be preferable than being muzzled by MSU. Also, leftists, but isn't banning certain words you don't like fascism? I'm just asking for a friend. Make no mistake about it, this is just another desperate attempt to seem inclusive by changing something on campus that likely no one was offended by in the first place. Maybe Michigan State's administration should spend more time asking students about real problems that could be solved, like rising tuition costs, instead of wasting everyone's time on this nonsensical insanity. Michigan is on a roll. The University of Michigan also made headlines after establishing a Words Matter task force, who published a list of words which are or can be construed to be racist, sexist, or non-inclusive. Wow, I guess mean words really are so common on Michigan's campus that it warranted the creation of an entire task force. Really solving the problems that matter here, people. Your tuition and tax dollars are hard at work. Included in this list are words like man, crazy, dummy, grandfathered in, picnic, and long time no see. The reasons they're offensive? Almost everything is racist in some way or another, or at least possibly offensive to somebody out there. Man seems to be the most offensive word on the list, and anywhere man is used should be replaced with people, according to the university. For example, man hours should become person hours. This task force is really out here doing the Lord's work. Not all heroes wear capes, you guys. Oops, that's probably offensive. Whenever possible, members of the campus community should avoid using any of the 24 words and phrases on this list to create a campus that is diverse, equitable, and inclusive. When I was in college at Colorado State University, an inclusive language guide just like this one was published, deeming words and phrases like crazy, food coma, and even the word American as offensive and off limits. Publishing these guides is a trend only gaining steam on campuses nationwide, and I, for one, won't be surprised if this becomes a priority for nearly every campus in America. Oops, I forgot the name of our country is now offensive. I know it sounds crazy, but man, I love living in America, and the people who wrote this guide sound like dummies. Are you struggling to speak your mind on your insane college campus? Do you have any banned words or phrases where you go to school? Tell us your story in the comments, and there's your State of Campus.
My name is Katherine Lauer, and I'm a student at the University of Kansas. I was raised in Home, Kansas, a tiny small town on the Pony Express, where I never felt ostracized for sharing my values with others, or being conservative until college. At KU, I joined the Kappa Alpha Theta sorority. I was put on probation in my sorority for having conservative views and eventually was kicked out altogether. Amazingly though, it was through being silenced by Theta's leadership that I found my voice as a conservative, an embrace of newfound courage in sharing my values with others. I am Katherine Lauer, and I am on the front lines.
Please welcome Katherine Lauer from the University of Kansas. Katherine, thank you so much for being on this episode of On the Front Lines. And before we start, I have to say Rock Chalk Jayhawk because my dad is a graduate of KU.
Oh my gosh, that's so awesome. Rock Chalk. Thanks for having me, Isabel.
Absolutely. Tell me more about your experience at KU, why you chose to go to school there, what you're studying, and why did you decide to join a sorority?
Yeah, so I'm currently a junior and I'm studying biology. And I wanted to go to KU because my mom went there, a bunch of my aunt and uncles, and I currently have a few cousins there as well. So it was really a big family affair. And let's not forget that KU is the best at basketball.
Yes. So true.
But I joined a sorority because I really wanted to find a little community in such a big school. And a few of my cousins and family members had also been involved in the Greek system and really encouraged me to be involved.
You've shared with me that you never had a bad experience with your sorority until you had one post on your personal Instagram. Tell me what happened with that post and what happened immediately afterwards.
Yeah, so I started living in the house my sophomore year. So by this time, I had lived in there my second year. And I made a post from Candace Owens, and it was basically talking about Black Lives Matter. And after I posted that, I received an email saying that I was being sent to the Member Development Committee for allegations that I was making members feel alarmed and uncomfortable. So I went into this meeting very unsure what was going to happen. They first had me read a statement about racism. So immediately at that moment, I knew exactly what it was about.
Wait, what was this statement? Did they make you read something about racism?
Yeah, so they put up this statement, basically Theta's stance against racism, about how, you know, we don't tolerate it, it's not part of Theta's values and that sort of a thing.
So then how does that tie into a social media post that you had?
Right, so several times they mentioned Black Lives Matter in particular and my post, and they kept going in and attacking me about my white privilege. They wanted me to blatantly admit my white privilege against people of color.
Living in the United States and being a white woman, do you believe that you have privilege over other groups of people of color?
I mean, I like to think that the whole point of equality is that we're all equal. I would never want to think that I'm above someone else.
They wanted to know my stance against racism, what I was going to do to combat racism. And I really didn't know where this was coming from because all I had done was post a comment from Candace Owens.
What did that comment specifically say, and why do you think your sorority sisters ended up going to the board to complain about it?
Right, so the post by Candace Owens basically said that Black Lives Matter is an organization of white people using the faces of dead black people to elect white Democrats into power.
So that in turn made you a racist in the eyes of your sorority board just because you posted that on social media?
Yes, I think that they were upset about the fact that I wasn't condemning racism and admitting my white privilege, and I was taking a more of a objective approach.
Let's go back to that meeting with the board of your sorority. After they made you read this anti-racist statement, what happened?
So I was placed on probation and I was called an unbecoming member. I was told that I had to take a week cleanse from social media and take a holiday break. And then I was also to watch a video with our chief operating officer to get a broader education on America Today.
What happened after this probation? I know you had an opportunity to tell your story on a national scale, on national media a few times, which was very exciting, and it gained a lot of attention. Were you removed from probation? Did you just get reinstated as a normal member? What happened next?
So right after the show aired on Fox News, I was placed in good standing, and then a week after, I had gotten notice that my termination was up for my membership.
Just completely terminated, kicked out. How did all of this impact your personal life on campus, your friendships with the people in your sorority, your academics, and just how you walked around campus every day?
Right, so it really changed the atmosphere of the sorority house since I was living in. So a lot of people were very offended by the fact that I went to the news and shared my story. I ended up actually having to move out of the house because of all the hate I was receiving. Luckily, I did find a lot of good friends that were there for me and supported me, and I'm very grateful for that, but it definitely made me realize who my true friends are.
Now, have you decided to continue being more outspoken, or has this dissuaded you from sharing conservative values with people in your community?
No, it's definitely empowered me a lot more to speak out and have those tough conversations. I really wanted to have a voice of change in the sorority. You know, I thought it was very unfair that they were being so biased against conservatives, especially when their goal is to be more diverse. My goal now is to post more and to encourage other people to speak out.
Knowing what you know now and having been through the experience that you did, would you still make the same post from Candace Owens' words on your personal social media?
Looking back now, I would definitely say I would do it all over again. I gained so much support, and I had people reach out to me saying that the same thing, something similar happened to them, and I was able to provide them comfort, and I even had a few people say that they were motivated to speak out and post, and to me that's really the whole goal in all of this, is to have people share their views and not be afraid to speak out.
Katherine, it's been so great getting to know you. Thank you so much for coming on the show and fighting for conservative values in the Greek community. What did we learn this week? Students and faculty members alike on college campuses are seeing their freedom of speech slowly erased and banned from campus, one supposedly offensive word at a time. Conservative ideas may just get you removed from a sorority or club on campus, even if you don't break any rules. But someone else's definition of offensive doesn't make your opinions wrong. And professors' social media posts reveal just how strongly they feel about people who disagree with their worldview. And some want to push conservatives into the oven. This is your voice, your stories, your fight. Together, we are on the front lines.